What?
Well, go ahead and call the meeting in order, Jennifer.
Oh, well.
Once we get the green light.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, this is William Thomas for the CAB Board Budget and Finance Committee. We're doing a joint meeting today, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we may start off with a call to order with a pledge of allegiance. If we have the American flag available. And while we're waiting for that, we'll go ahead and proceed with hand of your heart. I'll start off. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Let's see who we got on our roll here. I'm gonna step out the box. Samelia Davis, can you hear me? Samelia.
Yes, I'm having a little technical difficulties,
That's
but I can hear you.
Okay, great. All right. See, you know, I like to get folks involved. So, if you would please, would you honor us with a quick invocation to get this meeting started?
Okay. Yes. Bow your heads, please. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to meet once again to do business that's going to help the people of our county, Hillsborough County. We ask that you guide this meeting, guide the words that come out of our mouth, and help us to get through our agenda quickly and expeditiously. Thank you for all these blessings. We ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to start off with introductions. I guess we'll do a quick roll call. I'll go over the list I'm looking at. I see we have, of course, Derek is here for staff. I see Miss Christine Long. I see Jennifer Anderson, Celia Davis, Kelly with staff, Sharon Gorner with staff, Regina Gambrell is here, and Rosa Hill. Are there any others I've missed? I'm scrolling up here. Okay, I believe that is all that I have. If there's no other of those want to speak up at this time, I'll go ahead and proceed with the agenda. I'd like to ask for a motion for approval of the agenda that's been submitted to everyone today regarding budget and finance. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
I hear so moved.
Christine.
A second.
Second by Jennifer Anderson. Okay, we got a first, second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. See the hand rising up. Thank you. All right, so jump right into the line item number E, the 2020 Csbg budget review. For those who get a chance to look at it, it's a one-page document. Community Action Board Financial Summary, Grant Fiscal Year 20. This month reports for August. Points out some of the items here. Grant year expires 40% as of thus. Grant year remaining 58%. Grant year remaining. Are there any questions by those on the committee? As we review, I'll give you a minute or two here to go over the direct client assistance financial summary statement. Are there any questions, any concerns?
Mr. Thomas,
Yes, sir. I'm sorry?
I was just saying I can share that on my screen.
Okay. Yeah, please do, just for the record. You may. All right, any questions from the committee? Seems to be the same information that I've got, the same information as in last last month, right? I don't think there have been any changes. Or am I missing something here? I've got a cash funding. Can I ask, while we're going through this, Kelly, if you're there, can I ask for just a clarification? To me, it looks like the same one I've got today is the same as the one we previously reviewed, correct? So there are no changes?
The one that you're looking at now is for August. September
Yes.
is not done because September's
Gotcha.
report is not due till the 21st of
Gotcha.
May.
Okay, now last month, let's see here. Gotcha here. Just gonna go through here. All right, let's see here. So for August, yeah, I'm just going back over the August CAD board meeting for June. Okay. So if there aren't any questions, I've looked over the June and we have the August. For those of you who want to refer back to the CAD board meeting mail out we had back in August that showed the June report for direct client assistance. Again, I'm going to do another outreach. Are there any concerns or questions regarding this month's current budget report for direct client assistance? If there are none, I'd like to ask for a motion for approval of the August 2020 direct client assistance.
So moved.
So moved. I have a so moved by Ms. Davis. Is there a second? I know we got a little delay.
I'll second.
Okay, Chris, second. Thank you, Christine. We second it. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Nay. That carries as the report accepted. We'll jump right into the next item on the agenda is the 2020 CARES budget review. Mr. Derrick, if you would, please. For any of those in the budget committee, you have any concerns? I'm looking at the August 20 CARES funding. Year expired has been 11% versus last month, which was 4%. And the grant year remaining 89% compared to grant year remaining on the July report of 96%. And the July report was thus stamped as a pending approval by DEO. Is there anything you'd like to add, Kelly, regarding the August?
No, the August report, there's a lot of items. The August report does not show any funds spent. I have seen some invoices come through in September. So you should see some movement or some expenditures in the September report.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it so much. Again, reaching out for all of our committee members. Any questions? Of course, we kind of know the expectation that the report will be a little low until things kind of pick up speed, which I predict will probably be a little busy in November and December to start getting the invoices coming in, as well as October report as well. So again, any concerns, hand raises, concerns from committee members? All right, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Ms. Rose.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
apologize.
That's okay.
I'm on two calls at the same time.
Madam Chair, you have the floor. Go ahead.
The only question I have, and this is just a general question, it still reflects on the youth development. It still reflects the 61,530. And I see the remaining balance under the scholarships of 17.5. It just looks like it has not been pulled from the youth development portion. Because as we discussed in our executive meeting, that should only be 40,000 and some change.
Madam Chair, this is Kelly. It has not been pulled because the formal, well, it's actually an informal modification, has not been submitted to the state at this time. We wanted to make sure that all the other budget line items would remain intact so that we're not submitting multiple modifications.
Okay, that's great, and I understand that, but I do know that they're having a plan evaluation meeting right after this one. So I just wanted to make sure that it was still clear that that line item is only 40,000 and some change.
Okay, you're correct. If you'd like, if it would make it clear for everybody when I do the September report, I can put an asterisk and move it and just put a note that it's pending modification. But so that way when the reports are looked at, you know what your actual balances would be.
Okay, I think, Mr. Chair, you can chime in, but because they're needing to award those two contracts and we're taking it before the board, I think that'll minimize some of the questions and the conversation around it. So that's the only thing I pointed out.
Appreciate it, Madam Chair. Kelly, if you would, please move on that action so that our board members can expedite and make decisions and have a clear understanding. It'd be greatly appreciated.
Okay, it would be reflected on the September report. I'm not sure when the next Community Action Board meeting is, but I believe that this would probably not be mailed out until after the next report. But I will be on the next meeting to answer any questions.
Okay, I'll make it a point to note to bring it up during my report to the CAD board as well, just so individuals can understand next week and when decision making goes that line item as well. Just kind of point that out. So as the Madam Chair noted, so we can avoid any potential confusion. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I did ask the same question and clarify it with Ms. before when she and I spoke about the proposals for the projects as well. So we are on the same page, just so you know.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. This is Noreen Copeland Miller. I just stepped in a little late. Sorry for my lateness.
Let me just clarify. This is Mr. Thomas's meeting. I'm just sitting in as a listener. So please address everything back to him as the chair of this this budget and finance meeting. Thank you. Glad to hear.
Glad to hear the infamous Miss Noreen Copeland Miller joining us. I'm honored. Thank you so much, Miss Miller, for joining us today.
My pleasure, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to roll back on a correction. We had, of course, approved the direct client assistance as submitted. I would like to, I'm not sure of my parliamentarian rules here, but I'd like to go back, as Madam Chair pointed out, and a line item regarding the youth development line item and the adjustments that need to be made. So just a note, I know we did approve the direct client assistance, but Madam Chair did chime in and pointed out that we just need to make a minor update on that. So I want to go ahead and move forward with the CARES. Again, CARES budget review. My second round, are there any questions before we go for a final vote? Because I believe we had a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any questions regarding the CARES Act funding sheet that was sent out? We had a motion on the floor by Ms. Davis and a second by Ms. Long. Are there any questions? Third round?
So
if not, I'd like to.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
The CARES dollars that you're talking about, is it the Csbg CARES dollars?
Yes, ma'am. That is my understanding. It is the CARES. Csbg.
FEP.
Yes.
And the target clients or the FEP.
So we have, so the CARES funding, thank you, Ms. Mel. The CARES funding that I'm looking at, dated for August 20, has the crisis assistance, education assistance, prescription, e-learning, and support services. It's my understanding, and I asked for finance staff to clarify that we, again, have judiciary oversight over the direct client assistance and the CARES funding, direct client assistance.
Okay, so I guess, but and maybe I'm a little confused. I'm asking, is those dollars earmarked for the FEP family?
I would defer to Kelly.
The CSBG CARES dollars are a completely different funding source. They're separate from the regular CSBG, and they're not earmarked only for family empowerment customers. They're for anybody who needs assistance that meets the CSBG CARES criteria.
Okay, and that's with the poverty guidelines being elevated up to what, 200% or something?
200% is what they're elevated to. And the CSBG CARES, as previously voted, they're broken down into 5 buckets. It's crisis assistance, education assistance, prescription and healthcare assistance, e-learning support, and supportive services.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
So again, we had discussion on the floor regarding the CARES funding, direct client assistance. Are there any more questions from any of our budget folks attending in the meeting today? And please don't be shy. Okay, we've had clarification on discussion. We still have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Are there any further discussion? All right, with further ado, I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. I'm gonna move on down to the agenda here. Prior to the Department of Social Services updates, I would like to add a discussion point. I didn't see it for, excuse me for not updating the agenda. There is a training component that was discussed during the executive committee, and it's just wanted to know, as part of that effort, there is going to be a cost to be presented before the budget, as well as the Community Action Board. That request for expenses would include acquiring or purchasing a copy of the current Robert Rules of Order with the current revisions. That will be presented before all of us for consideration and approval as part of a training for the Robert Rules of Order. In addition, I'd like to ask staff, I was brainstorming the other day, and I'm going to go online as well and look about if the board and the budget allows in the training dollars, as this dust settles, to acquire a copy of The Government Under the Sunshine. I've worked with that lady out of Tallahassee for a number of years, and Barbara, and wanted to see if that could be something that be looked into as well by staff on the feasibility of adding that as part of the request to be presented to the board for training material.
Mr. Thomas, Sharon Thomas, Kelly again. There should be plenty of funds available in the training bucket because of the lack of training or travel this year with the pandemic. So if you wanted to include the cost of that in your presentation, I'm sure that there would be funding available.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the budget committee? There's a tentative budget regarding the point of order I point out regarding the cost for acquiring copies of the Robert Rules of Order, in addition to obtaining copies of The Government Under the Sunshine. Any concerns?
Okay. Now, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you're talking about a training for parliamentarian procedures, which would include the Robert Rules of Order guidelines. I think the Sunshine rules are separate, and the county has the sunshine rules, I believe that we can get from the county attorney at no cost. And they have people that present what works for Hillsborough County as we talk about the sunshine law. I think that the county has that already in place, and they can certainly provide a free copy of that to board members.
Thank you,
Because they do
Ms.
have
Miller.
someone on staff, I believe.
Thank you. You've always been a source of wisdom. Thank you so much, Ms.
No, well,
Miller.
the staff can jump in and clarify that if they would. I just didn't see us paying a call for training for the sunshine when that's already something that's in place.
Okay. I'll leave the floor to staff. If staff wants to chime in regarding the training subject matter.
This is Kelly again. Ms. Gillis, I'm sorry, Sharon, if you wanted to respond, that's fine.
No, I mean, if you're reporting on something that Ms. Gillis has, then yeah, that would, go ahead.
I was just going to say that Ms. Gillis is unavailable this afternoon. She had a conflicting appointment, but that is something that I could reach out and ask her about to see if that's available through the county.
Appreciate it. Thank you. That's my only discussion point. Just keep that on the minds of those on the budget committee. I'm sorry, go
Mr.
ahead.
Thomas, what was the name of the book? I want to make sure I get it.
Government Under the Sunshine.
Government.
It may have changed slightly a bit, and I'll go online and research that during my days of working with DOT.
Okay, when I provide an update to Ms. Gillis about this meeting, I will include that.
Thank you. All right, if there are any further questions, again, the meeting started at 2. I'd like to jump right into Department of Social Service updates. I know Maria's still in another meeting. I'm going to leave the floor to Ms. Ziegler if she's there. If not, we'll move down to Ms. Gordon.
This is Kelly again. Ms. Ziegler also had another appointment at the same time. Okay.
Hey.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I was going to say good morning, but it's clearly not morning. Good afternoon. Nice to see everyone. We had a BOCC meeting today, so that was able to conclude sooner than this meeting, and I wanted to join in. So I've been able to listen, and I have another meeting, so this is timely before I need to step away. I still have the same update, which is staff is looking into what options we have going forward for our meetings. So we're not sure yet if we're going to continue with a virtual platform, if we can meet or need to meet face-to-face, or we'll proceed with a hybrid. That was discussed today during the BOCC meeting. So I'm assuming from that board discussion, there'll be some additional discussion going on with the county and the county attorney's office, and then we'll have guidance sooner rather than later. So I'll keep this board updated. And worst case scenario, we'll just have to regroup as soon as possible to figure out our meeting plans, and we can do that with Madam Chair to plan going forward. That's all I have since the executive meeting, which most of you were on that meeting as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ziegler, as always. I'll pass the gavel floor to Sharon Gordon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Everything pertinent has been discussed, so I do not have anything to add. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. All righty. I'm going to go ahead. Sound like I got rain outside. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go down to the good of the order regarding the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. And upon conclusion of that, I will pass the gavel to the Planning Commission Chair, Ms. Jennifer Anderson. So now we're for the good of the order. Anyone have anything they want to offer for the good of the order regarding budget and finance? Regina, you good? All right, got a nod. Samia, Ms. Davis, you good? Christina Long, you're squared away? All right. Okay, Jennifer, any questions as we dive in? Okay. No, did I hear a pause? Okay. All right. Well, at that point, I'm going to pass the gavel as the Budget and Finance Committee meeting is now closed. Conclusion of the order, and pass the gavel to the next part of our meeting. We're sharing with the Planning Committee meeting. So, Jennifer Anderson, you have the floor.
All right. And due to the fact that we threw this together so quick, and there's I think 5-day minimum is what Ms. Gordon told me. We do not have an agenda for this meeting. I apologize, but it's pretty straightforward, and that's what we're going to do with the proposals for the projects by Tampa Housing Authority and Epic. So if I could get Mr. Derek Guida to please throw that budget back up for us so we can kind of look at what I'm talking about. I have a couple proposals. And then if the multiple of you can come up with something even better, I would love to hear it. So with the what you were talking about before, what Ms. Hill was talking about with the 17,000, and then the, oh my goodness, that's small writing. The youth development, I believe it says, oh, thank you, Derek, you're wonderful. It says 60 for old people. You're great, man. The 61,530, we take out the 17,500. We have $44,030 left to do both of these projects. Well, both the projects together are 76,250. Now, I may went to Plant City High School, but we have a problem. And that's that we need $32,280 if we want to fund both of them. So EPIC is actually a education program. It's not, doesn't have to necessarily be youth. So here's my proposal. We can take and figure out percentage-wise based on the two amounts that are wanting to be awarded, the 31,250 or the 45,000, and figure out the percentages and then divide the $44,030 based on the percentage of that money to each one. Or we could take the 31,250 out of the youth development, out of that 44,030, take the 31,250 out of the 44,30, and then take the balance of that and put it towards the 45,000, and then get the balance of that from the education assistance pot of the $168,636.92. So those are my two proposals. We can either divide it related to percentages of the amounts out of the 44,000, or we can get it from two different pots from the line items here, the education assistance and youth development. And so that'll wipe out youth development and then take some out of the education. So those are my two ideas. If anybody else has anything they'd like to add or questions or.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Long.
The education assistance area, are there other committed funds? Is that where the scholarships come from? And is there extra funds to be expended?
That's a separate, my understanding, because believe me, I asked all this when Ms. Gordon and I met. It is a separate line item. It's separate from the scholarship, separate from funds that are used for FEP for education. It is a separate line item. So there's nothing from the other line items that are taken out of that. That's my understanding. I got a real great class.
Ms. Anderson, this is Kelly.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make sure or make all of you aware that you can discuss moving the line items or changing the budget amounts, but just know that anything that you do like that will have to go before the board for approval. And
I understand that.
Okay, and we would also have to submit a modification to the state. And I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Yes,
so if you're
ma'am.
having to go to the board for approval, that would have to be done prior to voting on the agreements or the proposals. I'm just going from the phone to say if you could do that the same day. But we would have to have approval from the state also for the budget modification.
This is William Thomas. Planning Chair Jennifer, can I chime in real quick?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So obviously is, and I think some of the other members are aware of this as well. We're obviously trying to move along the timeline. The objective is to ensure that we meet the MPIs. We make sure we fund the programs that we program categories that we originally said we were going to do. And I noted what Kelly was pointing out. So my understanding is that it's important that we submit approval to the DEO, right? And as well as getting board approval. So which one should come first, Kelly? Just for the sake of time.
At the next board meeting, you can obviously discuss the proposal, and at that time, if they wanted, I believe, unless there's some guidelines that Ms. Gordon knows of, I believe at that time they could make the recommendation to do the modification. If you're only moving 10%, it's considered an informal modification, and I don't think that there would be a problem with any modifying the funds. I just wanted to make you aware that you couldn't vote to overspend a budget line item without first modifying your budget.
Understood. So circling back, Ms. Anderson, just circling back. So I think we're all on the understanding that there's several areas that we'll have to submit to the board for approval. Okay, Jennifer, you got it. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay, and I understand that, but my question to Kelly is this: do we have to move money? Because it is an education program. It is for a program that supports Hillsborough County schools. So are we actually moving money?
Give me just 1 second to pull up the budget, because I believe it's detailed that it's for GEDs and
this is Sharon, I'd like to add clarification on that. When we submit it, the education funds are for GED and technical programming through the School District of Hillsborough County. Because of that, we would have to submit a modification for the EPIC program to DEO.
Okay, and just to clarify something, I understood that we would have to go to the board, get board approval to do whatever it is that we, gave. My actual idea was to take the choices to the board, and then or not. I don't know what's the best. That's what I'm asking you guys. What would be the best thing? Take the choices to the board, or go to the board with the idea, with this idea? Because I think this is the most solid idea.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I understand what you're saying. Certainly that's a great idea, and I understand what Kelly's saying. I think because of time restraints, that if one of the proposals is for 15,000, is that right?
No, it's 45,000. When we got,
Oh, okay.
There was 7 pages, and for some reason I only had 5. So I misspoke at the last meeting. It was 45,000.
For one proposal?
Yeah, for one proposal. Well, Tampa Housing Authority was 45,000 and EPIC was 31,250.
Oh, I thought initially Tampa Housing Authority was for 15,000.
No, ma'am. I only had 5 pages. When they I'd have it resent to me. It was actually it was 7 pages to the proposal. For some reason only 5 pages came through.
Okay. So let me understand. Now, one is 45,000 and the other one is for how much?
31,250.
And we're working with, what's the amount that we're working with?
$44,030. That's what's left in the youth development fund once that 5 gets taken out.
So we have 44,000 to split between 2 proposals. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So to keep us in line with where we are and not have to take another line item, I would suggest, this is just my recommendation to take back to the board, that we take those 44,000 and split them between the 2 proposals with what we are able to give them. And it's what, 22,000 each? And that will keep us in line where we're supposed to be.
The only problem with that, Ms. Miller, is that we're in October and we have
Mm-hmm.
a ton of money that is going to be expiring soon. And we got the holidays coming up, and then next thing we know, we're going to have money unspent because COVID has caused us.
And the reason I say that, Madam Chair, is because if you move it from another area, then you're going to have to go back to EO and all of that to get approval because you're deviating from what we actually put in there for the youth program. So if we go out to take way more money out to satisfy both of them, I think that's going to be timely, and we're going to still be out of, I think, compliance if you change from what the youth program actually was intended to do.
I'm not trying to change what the youth is supposed to trying to do. I'm trying to change what the education portion that we have quite a bit of money in sitting there not being used.
But we're in the youth development program, right? So that's what I'm just trying to stay focused in, that youth development program part that we have there, to allocate those funds to what we said we were going to do with them. That's all that I'm saying.
I'm just trying to put more in that pot, and I'd rather use the money.
Kelly, help me out with that.
Then lose the money.
If
we already have to submit one modification to move the money from youth development into the scholarship line. So we are already pending one modification. So if it's the pleasure of the board to remove funding from the education assistance and fund additional youth development activities, we would include that on the same modification. The only thing that we have to be aware of is if we're moving more than 10% from any line, it is no longer an informal modification and it becomes a formal modification.
Okay.
Which the same paperwork, it doesn't really change a whole lot as far as the paperwork goes, but it just requires a little bit more review from the DEO.
So are we able to move? I'm sorry. So can you move enough money and keep it on 10% to satisfy both proposals?
Well, 10%. Hold on one second, because we're already moving 17.5. It would be the scholarships portion is right at about 10%, so it would exceed 10% to go with that.
Okay. And so that changed the entire.
We would just have to identify the NPIs, and it would just require additional review by the DEO.
This is William. I wanted to chime in, Jennifer, if I could. I want to ask Kelly, so if I'm understanding this correctly, we agreed to move funding out of youth development to scholarships, right?
Yes, and I think I know where you're going. Can we just leave that money there and move the money from education to scholarships?
Absolutely. If it hasn't already been submitted to DEO.
That would be something that you as parliamentarian or along with Ms. Gordon, because the board voted specifically to move the money from youth development into the scholarships. So that vote would need to be undone.
Yeah,
to
be
leave the money
undone.
in youth development, and then you would need to vote to move the money from education assistance to the scholarships.
Okay, so thinking from parliamentarian, reversing or going back and revisiting an action that the board voted on, I guess the question I would have is, and as you said, where I was going with it, if option one, of course, I agree with Ms. Miller. Option one, work with what you have. Option two would be coming up with option two to the board next week. I would like to ask Ms. Anderson and the rest of the committee to consider is from a judiciary standpoint, the board addressing the previous vote to move money from one category, striking that, and instead moving the money from the education assistance if it falls under the 10% threshold as an option B.
to move
Okay,
money
so
for the
what is
scholarships.
60, hold on a minute, 61. Plus 68. That's still not going to get us where we need to be. Because we need 76,250 to fund both.
If you voted to strike the original motion to move the money, you would still be $14,720 short to
Yep,
fund.
I see that, Miss Anderson. So I guess option one, Miss Miller noted, option one, obviously splitting or percentage wise with the current 40,000 that we 41,000 that we have remaining in the youth development category between the two, and I'll leave it to the rest of the committee on come up with a plan B.
I still think that plan B would be to move some money. Guys, we're going to have to move money regardless, because money, if it's going to come to the point that once again, here we are sitting here in October with no plan, because if we don't use it, we're going to lose it, and so therefore, and COVID made it even worse. And that's another subject that I want to bring up in this meeting, is that we have to come up with something that's within the rules to other than word of mouth, to make people aware that this is available, that they can put in proposals to, get money to fund their programs. Here we are in October with 2 proposals. We had 3. The third one's just starting out. They didn't really, so they got to go back and recollect their marbles, put them in a bag and start over and come back again. We had 3 proposals. 2 were qualified proposals. We have 2. We should be having to beat people off of us, and we're not. And that's something we need to change. We need to figure out how we can change that. It's almost like the scholarships, we don't understand why kids aren't like beating our door down, and they're not. And so therefore we got to figure out what we can do to get people to start submitting proposals in order for us to be able to do what we need to do in order to support the communities. But right now we're faced with this one, and this one is, we have 2 proposals here that, are good projects, and we're not able to fund them. We didn't use the college program. I mean, the Explorers program. We didn't use Parks and Recs. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff that hasn't been used. The education assistance, we got a ton of money sitting there. And are we really going to do that many GEDs and trade schools between now and, is it April, Kelly?
The grant expires March 31st.
March 31st. And that's going to come really, really quick.
Keep in mind that a lot of the educational with the GEDs and the pre-apprenticeship programs, those are seasonal. I call them seasonal, almost quarterly. So if Ms. Gordon's still on the line, she may have a better idea of where they're estimating that they're going to be spent.
I was doing a comparison between the grant fiscal year 19 and 20, same time, and the funding levels are the same, and we are underspent in that category. However, as Kelly mentioned, education is seasonal, and we are processing some invoices, so those numbers will change. But one thing that I did want to direct, and Mr. Thomas, the Parks and Recreation, Ms. Gillis and I believe Ms. Mistretta, were you in the meeting with us when we met with the Parks and Recreation fiscal and program staff?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, they will be underspent, and the board, you will have to realign some of those funds. So when we meet next month again, they should provide us a projection of the actual amount that they could spend. Due to the COVID, they had service disruptions. So they were the after school care, not after school, but the summer program did not happen. That we will not have any expenditures for that. So, Mr. Thomas, sorry.
Yeah, yes, Ms. Anderson. I think just to be a little more direct, so we can get straight to what's going on. And as Ms. Gordon, thank you for your comments, and Kelly as well. And kind of piggyback on with Ms. Miller's noting, there's a crossroad for planning. You've got to. One is you have to deal with of course, you stay the course, you stick to your line item. The overhead issue seems to be is, do we have the confidence that the education assistance and other line items, as Ms. Gordon had reported, that may come up under budget? Do we have the confidence that we're going to meet our objectives? Or if there's concern in light of what's going on, if there's going to be funding left over, do we go ahead and take the hit now and move the funding now, as Ms. Anderson had pointed out?
Mrs. Kelly, that would be a programming question.
Actually, it was that was an option, the education assistance, briefly, that I had mentioned to Ms. Gillis, and we haven't had an opportunity to discuss it. But using the EPIC contract for education assistance seemed to be a possible option, but I can't say definitely. That is something that we could come back to the board with.
Okay, this is William again. Is it something that could be presented now? So we have an option A, which obviously split the 40,000 we have. We're working on option B. Can option C be for staff to check and present that as an option C at the cabinet meeting, that one of those proposals could fall up under another budget category, such as education assistance?
Yes.
I'd like to ask for Jennifer's consent on an option C, if that would be something we can slide in as an option C, Jennifer, to have staff circle back and see if the education assistance category could be filled by one of those proposals. And then
I don't have a problem. That was my idea to begin with.
Okay.
Was educated.
So can we move forward on, if it's okay with you, Ms. Anderson? I'd like to ask that be an option C, and if you at your discretion, you want to hammer out an option B. If not, we can move that C up to B and have two options like you noted. But obviously the first option is to stay the course, and the second or third option right now is to have staff look at education assistance category being utilized to fulfill one of those proposals. And those could be the two options presented. And again, Ms. Anderson, you can determine if there's another option you want to hash out, or if you want to go with just those two.
Yeah, I think that either splitting it or, either splitting it, moving money, or taking money out of education assistance, one of those three. But I think we need to, but now do we need to give the board a decision between the three, or just figure out what we're going to do and have them vote on it? I mean,
Okay, well, again, Ms. Anderson, I think we have two options now. And I again, you've got the time on the clock right now to hammer out another option among the planning committee. So from my understanding, you have two options right now, and it would be great to have a third. Again, it can be viable, not viable, however direction you want to take. But to my understanding right now, we have two options that seems to be hanging around. One, lighting up the 40,000, and two, asking staff to verify before the next cabinet meeting regarding the education assistance category being used. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, on my assessment on that.
That's exactly it. But I would like to, if we can, we need to get it moving. So we need to figure out what we're going to do. And I'd like to ask Matt I'm not doing this right now, but at the meeting, ask Madam Chair for a vote on funding, the decision as to, you know, what the board wants to do, and then the funding of them, and just get it done. You know, just dragging it out.
Mr. Thomas, this is Sharon. May I add? Or actually, this is your meeting, Ms. Anderson. So we had discussed that Parks and Recreation, they are underspent. So it's inevitable that some of those funds will need to be moved or repurposed. So, and we have been in discussion with them. So I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that.
So Jennifer, Ms. Anderson, it sounds like Ms. Gordon is noting, is that we're going to be dealing with a surplus under a category, I'm sure, between ultimately with the CAB board voting on an action. So there's going to be an issue we're going to have to deal with regarding expense money not spent under the Parks and Recreation. So that, again, I know we're talking about trying to move around pieces on a chessboard, for lack of a better word, and trying to maneuver those pieces without, of course, as Ms. Miller pointed out, dire consequences or consequences or unnecessary consequences in regards to, overworking staff and, obviously dealing with submitting the updates to DEO. So again, it sounds like, again, those are all moving pieces that Jennifer, you can look at. But again, circling back, as they've all, Kelly and Sharon Gordon have noted, you got one option, you got two. I'm not sure the amount of money that might be remaining unspent from Parks and Recreation. I would ask the staff, if at all possible, if things move slow, if that information can be presented before the CAD board as well, under the premise of option A, B, and again, possibly a C option, based on what you want to do today, Ms. Anderson.
Well, that's it. And they're supposed to be meeting with them, so they don't know exactly what's going on with Parks and Recs. So it's kind of hard for us to say, oh, well, we can take X amount from Parks and Recs, because we don't know what X amount is yet. But with education, we know what that is. So right now, what I would need to find out from staff is, can we do that? Can we take this money from education? And like I've been saying, if we're going to do it, if we've got to do a DEO, and my understanding from Ms. Gordon and from what Ms. Mastrada is saying, is that we're waiting to kind of get the most bang for our buck as far as modifications for the DEO and submit as many as we can. So obviously there's others that they're looking to make. Parks and Recs is one of them, and then the scholarship one, and then any others that we make, you're going to try to do as many as they can at one time. So it's just not repetitive being done. So if staff could please check into that and let us know, so we can make some kind of determination before the CAB board meeting, that would be awesome, and then we'll know how to move forward.
Yes, Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
I think that it would be good to fully fund both of these proposals. If we can find a way to do that, they do look like good proposals. We definitely have those needs in our community. And so I'm in agreement with you at trying to find a way to fully fund them if possible. And it seems like the staff knows the best way to potentially accomplish that they could recommend which source, which other line item some funding should be coming from, which is the best way from them on an administrative side to handle the transfer, and make a recommendation so that we could get it approved at the next CAB board meeting.
Right, and that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing what she's saying about Parks and Recs. There's going to be an amount left over. But I'm also hearing her say that they have to meet and find out how much they're going to want. And so we don't know how much there's going to be there. Mm-hmm. So that's an X amount, we don't know what X is yet. Mm-hmm. So if we want to, move $44,000, we can't, because we don't know there's $20,000. We don't know how much is there. but we know education has, but even that's a mysterious amount, but I doubt it's 168,000, you know, so that's my thoughts.
Ms. Anderson, this is Kelly. As far as the budget documents go, I can do whatever the board votes on, but I can only do budget items and prepare the budget. I do not make any determination or any forecasting as far as programming what they're going to do. So that would be the programming. But I just wanted, the budget documents would not be difficult. They're the same documents. It's just the level of review that's required by the state. So
No, I understand.
it would just be okay.
I understand that, honey. I understand it totally. I really do. All I'm asking for at this point is for them to tell me if we can do this, if you know, if we can move, or if we can use education. I guess the question is if we can use this for education assistance, or if that money has to be moved to youth development.
Ms. Anderson, this is William Thomas. I think I'm kind of following in line with Ms. Christine Long is noting. It sounds the message I'm getting from staff is, look, there's not any major resistance to option B or C, whatever C may be. I think it's just, you know, again, it's on the board and on the committee. So again, I'm gonna circle back. One option, split. The other option is we ask for staff to look at the big picture between now and the CAB board next week and determine the best option with the minimum consequence. And I think that's what I'm getting out of the staff as well. Is that, look, Ms. Gordon shared that there's another area that may have some surplus. They know the rules of the percentages and how DEL works. And so I think at this time, Ms. Anderson is just pretty much making a suggestion to the staff to present, so we can present some opportunities to the CAB board next week. I think they're in agreement that, you know, the direction we want to fund both fully. Let's challenge the staff and they've come through before, and see if they can figure out the best presentation to present on next week.
Okay.
I don't think there's any staff objection. I mean, they've like I said, they've always been innovative. Well, I think we're more on the table, so to speak.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas, and yeah, this all aligns with what Ms. Anderson and I discussed. So basically, reviewing whether we move funds from education assistance to scholarships and how much in Parks and Recreation would need to be moved. So I will touch base with Parks and Recreation to request a projection sooner than next month. So I'll see if they can do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so Jennifer, just circling back, and excuse me for bulldogging in. So, did you want to get a consensus from the planning committee on the directions they want staff to go, so we have that for the record?
Right now, I mean, are you asking me to call for a vote? Because there's not really anything to vote on here.
Okay. I mean, if I'm not again, I'm trying to clarify my parliamentary rules. My understanding is we want to determine. We're not voting on an action other than just what we want to present to the board next week based on what information may be made available. I do understand, Ms. Anderson, there's some uncertainty on the decisions, but I think maybe getting a consensus among the planning committee that, look, the option A is one we're going to present, and option B, we would love to present and ask the staff do whatever they can to ensure whatever data is made available so we can present that option B.
Okay. I mean, like I said, I option A is split the money. Option B is move money. And so that would be what we would be, as any other idea, then that's, I'd love to hear it, but right now that's where we're at. If anybody has any questions or reservations about those two options, I don't really see where there is a C, but
Ms. Anderson, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just heard from Ms. Gillis, and also keep in mind that under your, if it's the pleasure of the board, under the CSBG CARES budget, you have $335,000 in education on that, under the CSBG CARES bucket also. And Maria said that those, or Ms. Gillis said that those dollars could also be used to fund one of the programs.
Well, bam, there's my C.
So that's another option that you can consider. We would also have to, of course, do a budget modification for that grant too. But that would provide you another alternative.
And this is the Housing Authority, their program is directly due to COVID. So I would like to propose that I almost asked that. And then my ADD self got to listening to everything else going on and it left my head. I apologize. But then that would be awesome. We could use the 44, we could fund the Housing Authority from the CARES Act because it is directly COVID generated program, and then the 32 or 31,250 could come from the oh man, I forgot what it's called now. She flipped the page on me. Great. The youth development. Thank you, Derek. You're so wonderful. The youth development side. So there is a definite. I think that would actually work out better. Either split the money or take one from one budget and one from the other. So I'm glad Ms. Gillis called in and gave us that option.
Keep in mind, you do have a longer time frame to spend the CARES Act funding compared to the regular CSBG ends in March 31, 2021, and the CARES Act goes, I believe, until September 30th, 2022.
You're killing me, Kelly.
But just so you know, I want to make sure you're aware of the time frames, but that is an option that you could, I wanted to let you know that was an option.
I kept bringing that up and y'all kept, reeling me back in. So I was just, I kept saying we got to use it or lose it. And y'all kept reeling me back in on that. So, I mean, when y'all gave me another option that seemed just so much easier.
Well, that is an option. I just want to make sure you were aware of the timeframes, and a lot of it would be based on Ms. Gordon's projection as to what the education is going to be spending, if they're going to have additional funds left at the end of this year or not.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to project. Our option would be to split the money evenly. B would be to move money according to Miss Gordon's projection within the current budget. I'm writing this down if y'all, so I'm stammering. Or C, take money from both budgets. So there's our three options. So I propose that those are our three options that we will go with.
I agree. Christine.
Anybody else have anything else they want to add or take away from or throw rocks at me or anything?
I concur, Ms. Anderson. I don't have a rock, but I concur.
You live too close, man. You can't have any rocks. Yours wouldn't be virtual. So, are we all in agreement? Gosh, South we're Plant City. Yes? Okay, awesome. Miss Gordon, would you please check this and get back with me on it, please, ma'am?
Yes, I
So
sure.
I'll sound like I know I'm talking about when when Madam Chair calls on me next Wednesday night?
Yes, definitely.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, my part of the meeting is over unless anybody has anything else. Nope. Okay, then we are done. It is.
So 2 committee meetings in less than just over an hour. Amazing.
Yeah, 4 minutes over an hour, man. That was just good.
All right, good. Congratulations, everybody.